What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel where today we're going to be back working on our 1962 Belair Wagon project. If you're new to the channel, be sure to check out the previous videos on this project to see how we got to this point. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button so you can follow along with everything that goes on here on the channel. Now let's get to work. One other thing that I'm doing is I'm working on the radiator support. Now I have this thing stripped down. I stripped it down the other day and I found a little bit of an issue here on what would be underneath the battery tray. There was a little bit of rust, and that's pretty common, you know, with the battery tray sitting here. You tend to have more rust on this side. It doesn't matter what kind of vehicle you're working on. But I put a patch in here and I've made a new bracket that'll hold our bolt, that'll hold this thing to the frame, and I think this is going to turn out fine. Now we are going to clean this thing up. We're probably going to media blast it and we're going to paint it up real nice and have it looking really good before we put it in the car. But this is something I wanted to kind of address because we have a new radiator. And here is our replacement radiator. Now this is a LS swap radiator for a 61 to 64 Impala. I picked this thing up a couple years ago actually, and it's a good thing because they got it a little cheaper than what they are now. The issue with the fitment on these things are right in here. And the reason I say right in here is because this is where your steering box goes. Now when you change to these CPP 500 steering boxes, these power steering boxes tend to stick up a little bit, and the radiator actually sits right in here where the front piece comes out. So a lot of people have clearance problems. Sometimes you have to use a notched radiator. Hopefully we're not going to have to do that because of course we already have a radiator. So that's why we need to get this radiator support mocked up so we can get our radiator in there. We can see if we have any kind of problems, and we'll just have to go from there. We either have to get a notched radiator or maybe a smaller radiator. Now I've got the radiator support in the brand new radiator mocked up, and I think we got really lucky. If you look, we have clearance. And I think what it is the design of this tank. Now most of the radiators that I've seen, they have a square tank, and I can see definitely where that would cause a problem right there on the steering box, but we don't have any problems. And this is actually slid all the way back towards the firewall as far as I can go. You know, I might have a little bit more clearance if I need to move it forward, but this is all the way back and it fits really good. Same thing over here on this side. Now this is the side I had to make the repair to, and I just have this bolt in here temporarily to hold it on because I'm gonna have to make some new mount bolts. That's not going to really be too big of a deal. The cool thing is this thing comes with a steam port on the passenger side, and it just about falls out right with our factory hose. It's a little short, but I think we can make it work if we can get a new hose that's maybe a little bit longer, and that'll work pretty good. The only other issue that I see here is our water pump is 1.5, and our radiator over here is 1 1/4. So maybe the radiator hose necks down from 1.5 to 1.25 inches. I don't know. We'll just kind of cross that bridge when we get to that point. But for right now, with our radiator support mocked up and our radiator in, I'm really happy with the way this thing is going to fit. It doesn't seem like we're going to have any issues. I don't believe this is going to hit the hood, which that would be the only issue that we had with this radiator. I've already kind of test fitted the fan shroud, and of course we got plenty of room for an electric fan. Another thing that I went ahead and done was I went ahead and welded up my pipes that come down from my headers that are going to connect my exhaust. And this is the first time I ever used stainless steel wire, and the welds, well, they turned out pretty well. They're not the prettiest welds, you know, they're not as nice as TIG, but I'm pretty happy with them. They did burn in real good, and it's nice and solid. And you can see I had to add an O2 bung there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm probably going to sand them down a little bit. And I'm not going to put a mirror finish on it like that, but I'll probably get like a brush kind of finish and then kind of polish these up a little bit. I mean, these will be underneath the car and you won't really see too much of them, but you can at least see that they have a little bit of polish on them.
Several days later.
So a couple of things we're going to do today on the wagon. We have our downpipes nice and polished up. ready to go with our brand new O2 sensors for both the passenger and the driver side. And we have our radiator support media blasted. Now we're going to need to put this thing back in so we can put our radiator up there and measure for some of the hoses. I believe the regular Camaro hose will work on the bottom, but I don't think it's going to work on the top. So we're going to need to get that thing in there and test fit it. Now I've got the radiator support back in the car mocked up, and I've had the radiator in there, and I've got the correct hoses ordered. But there's one other thing that I wanted to do before I continue, and that is mock up these inner fender wells. And the reason that I wanted to do this is because I'm going to clean all this stuff up. We're going to paint it up real nice along with the radiator support, and of course our brackets that support it against the firewall. But to do that, or before I get to that point, these things need a little bit of work. They need some welding on some of these little tabs. We have some issues, but we also needed to trim. It might be kind of hard to see, but we needed to trim for our shock relocation kit, as you can see there, because this would definitely hit if it was in the factory position, but as you can see, we have it trimmed out. And here on the passenger side, you can see we have the inner fender well trimmed also. Now, what I want to do is I want to clean all this stuff up, the inner fender wells, all the brackets, the battery tray, and obviously we already have this blasted, but I want to get all this stuff squared away so when I go to spray it, it'll be uniform. I'm going to lay down an epoxy primer, and then we're going to paint this black, and we're going to put a flattened clear coat or a semi-gloss, you know, just depends on how it turns out. I'm going to do a couple little test panels so I get it right, but I want all this stuff to kind of match. I don't want to have this piece more flat than say this piece. I want it to look all uniform and good. This is the step that I have to take, and I think this is going to work out just fine. So those are just some of the things that I've gotten accomplished, and it's these little minor things that take a lot of time, but we're just going to keep at it, and day by day we'll get closer and closer to the finish line.